Okay, the next thing I want to show is, let's see. Next is employer payroll. So I'm going to show how to upload an employer payroll file, and then I kind of want to show you guys how to do a copy forward. And I'll talk about that when I get there. So, but the first one is if you have, it's time for payroll and you have that file and you need to upload it, how would we go about doing that? So I'm going to come here and go to my hamburger menu. And just like with the enrollment file, we go to the same place, that upload files, and we'll come in here and it takes us to that same screen. As you can see, I still have that populated. I'm going to clear that out. And so in the upload file maintenance screen, I come down here to the file definition. And so instead of selecting the person enrollment file, this time I want to select the employer payroll file. And so once I've done that, whoops, my mouse was sticking on me. I can select the actual employer payroll file. So I'm gonna click this, it'll open up my browser and I have this payroll demo. I'm gonna click open. And when I do that, it's gonna populate the file here, getting it ready. And so then I'm gonna click that upload files. Ooh. So this is what I was talking about when you get the red. So when I see this, there's a couple things I can do. I can come in here and I can click this. And so I can see that this record is in, the file header is wrong. So just like when I was doing the enrollment file, like if I want to drill down deeper and find out exactly why this, what's wrong with this payroll file, I can come up here to my little hamburger menu and I can scroll down and I can go to the view processed. And it'll take me to that process files maintenance lookup screen. And so this is where I can look up all the different files that I've been uploading. Like I said before, I haven't been uploading a lot in the training region, so I can just do a blanket search. But you guys, once you guys get in there, you'll probably want to do it based on the date or the file type, whatever works best for you to narrow down the search. But here I have this employer payroll. We can see the file name. It's my payroll demo. And I have it, it's in review status. So I can click on this little hyperlink and saying employer model does not match. So when I went to the detail status, I don't have anything here, but when I go to the errors, it's saying the employer model does not match with the organization employer model. So what I need to do, like I said before, you need to update the actual um, record. So just give me a moment while I do that. Oh, I have it here and I have 2P and it's actually 1. So I can click save. So I've updated that information. Whoops. What are you doing? There we go. Okay, now since I've updated that information, I'm going to try it again. So I'll go back to my upload files, clear that one out, select employer payroll again, and then and so now I've uploaded it and I get that green. So this means the system verified and was like, okay, everything looks good. And now I can see if it's been processed. So I'll go back to that view processed, search for it. And so what this is saying, it's being uploaded right now. It's going to probably take a minute or two. And then hopefully it'll let me know. Hopefully it'll be processed or not, Oops. So we can see here, I searched again, it updated, and that the status is now processed. So that means Like when I was talking before with the enrollment, if it was partially processed, I would or review. I can go in and view and see what's wrong with that light item and drill down. But this one has been processed. So now I need to go to the header and like view the actual employer header and the detail records and submit it to TFFR. So how I do that is I'm going to come up here to my little hamburger menu and I'm going to go down to the employer payroll header. So the file that I uploaded has created a new employer payroll header record. And so I'm going to search for that. So it takes me to this lookup screen. And just like with the other ones, I can enter in all this different information in order to find it. Like I can do it based off of the benefit program, the month begin date or month end date. I can do it based off of the employer model. If I knew the payroll header ID, I could go by that. I can do it for the, I can look it up based off the posted date, anything if you need to come in here and look up the different employer information. Um, like I've said before, I'm just going to do a blanket search because I know I don't have too much in the training region right now. And I know it's going to be the first one. So I have this new one here. I can see this is for yeah, the date of December. I'm going into the future because, training region and data and all that kind of stuff. But I have this one and I can see the header status is in review. So I'm going to, in order to like view this information, I can come over here into the employer payroll header ID and I can click on this ID hyperlink. And so what that's going to do, it's going to open up the employer payroll header detail maintenance screen. And so I can view this information and see like more information about it. And so we got the like organization name, the header ID, we have the status is in review. I'm going to come back to that. But we have the benefit program, the month begin date, month end date, the period type, employer model, the retirement earnings, the eligible earnings, the record count. Now, obviously, I only did one to make when I set up this data, but you might have obviously more than one person employed at your school. So this would be however many people you're submitting it for and so forth. I'm going to come down here. We also have like the contribution totals so you can see what has been entered and we have a discrepancy. So I have a feeling that that's why we have reviews going on. But you can review that information here at a higher level. But then we have the employer payroll details. So for every person that's in there, so that's the record, I just have one, but you can come here and you'll basically there's the header and then the detail record is for each person. That's kind of how I think of it. So we can see I only have one count here and that it's in review. So you can see at a more we have this nice little pie chart and we can see that 100% is in review. If I had like more records in here, it might be like one is in review and one is valid. It would split it up. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. It's kind of a nice way to view the different details and see which ones are valid and which ones are in review. We can also see it by air type, so you can view it by air and then details. So we can see that for that detail record, which we're going to drill down to in more, like basically it's not matching. That's why it's in review. I'm going to come down here because when I talked before about this status being in review, you can always, when that happens, we go down to our validation information. So I was kind of talking about it at a high level with the enrollment, but we can see it in more detail here. We can see the severity. We can read what this, what's basically why is this in review? We can come down here and see that. We have like one or more payroll detail records are in review status. So that's why we have a hard error and we'll not be able to go forward until we correct this error. We also have a warning here. So this is what I was talking about when I was saying like, I might end up suppressing this because I know I'm in training and I set up the data not correctly. So I'm just going to ignore it. But if it's a warning, you're like, okay, I need to go fix this, you can go fix that and then come back and then, you know, be able to move forward. So with that said, I need to go look at this detail record. And how do I do that? I can come up here and we have this little review hyperlink. And so if I click on that, what it does is it pulls up the employer payroll detail lookup screen and it populates those review records. So if I had more than one, it would populate all of them. And so I could select, you know, basically you can click this button and it selects all the records. So if I had like 10 here that were in review and I just needed to go through and update them all, I could come here, select it, and it would just be like, you could just do it really more slick. But otherwise, I only have one, so I'm just going to click this hyperlink to open up the record. And so when I do that, it pulls that record open and I can view this information. And so we can see that we have, it refers back to what header is associated with this detail record. So we can see it's, you know, payroll header ID 25, what month begin and end date is. We can see that the header is in review, but we can also come down here and look at, let's see, the payroll detail record in more detail. So we can see that it's been assigned this ID. We have the model number for the organization, and then we have the employee's information. So we have the social security number, the first name, last name. We can see that it's in review. We can see the reported retirement earnings, the calculated retirement earnings, and so forth. With that said, I can come down here. I can also see the different like reported amount, and I know I have a discrepancy, so I'll be coming back to that, but I can view that information here. I also have the pay code detail panel, so I can see what pay code is associated with this detail record. And so as you can see, I have this in review status, so I can come down here to the validation information panel, and I can see why. And we can see here that we have a reported and they're not matching. So I need to correct this in order to move on. And so the way I will correct this is obviously I can come here and I can see this discrepancy. And now I'm just going to give like, this is a disclaimer. This is me just putting in information into that file and not doing it correctly. So, but I'm able to correct that information here. So, whoops, I did that wrong. The calculated amount should be 705. And then this should be 765. So I can enter in the correct amount here. It allows me to do that, fix my mistake. So I can come in here, and once I've done that, I can click the save button. And so now I want to point out when I clicked save and I put in that correct information, we have the status updated to valid. If I go back down, the validation information is, I don't have any errors here. So this record is now valid. And so what I need to do is I need to go back into the header. If you had more, you could go on to the next record and update that and make that as valid, but I only have the one record. So I want to go back to the payroll header, and there's a couple different ways I can get there. Now, if you notice, this is hyperlinked, so I can click here and it'll open it up. I can also use my breadcrumb trail. And so if you'll see, we went from the employer payroll detail maintenance, that's the one we're on right now. We're in the lookup, and then we can go. So if I wanted to, I can just click on that. So there's a couple different ways I can get there. So I'll just click on the hyperlink, and that opened up the employer payroll header maintenance screen. And so you can see that this is still in review status. So I'm going to go back down into my validation information. You can see that that error is now gone, and I just have that warning. And I know the warning is because of me being a trainer and not an actual payroll person. So I'm going to ignore it. So the way I can ignore it is underneath the header here, I have this little checkbox for suppress warnings. So I'm going to click that suppress warning checkbox, and then I'm going to click the save button. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So click the save button. And the minute I did that, it updated to valid. So I now have a status. This header is now valid. And now if I scroll down, you'll notice I have a new panel. And this is where I can verify and submit this payroll. So I will certify that this is correct. Click that little checkbox, enter my name, and then I can submit the selected. And so what that does is you can see here I have updated, we have submitted by, we have my name, we have the date, and we have that, yes, it has been submitted. So then that gets sent to TFFR. As I like to call them, the elves in the system. I know there's a batch job that runs daily that'll post stuff. TFFR might need to go in there and review and update it, not review and update it, but um, they might need to review it if that's the case, you know. But otherwise, it will get posted, and that information gets is you know then it'll get ready for you guys to then the invoice once it gets posted, then an invoice is created for you guys to go and pay that. Oh, look, it did it right there. So it's ready for you guys to pay. Which I'll come back to when I talk about viewing and paying invoices. So, is there any questions before I move on from how to upload a employer payroll file?
So Kristen, if they're a manual employer, which we do have somebody on here who is representing that group, is there anything different? They would
Yeah.
just, okay,
So I was going to show the copy forward feature.
okay,
So that is where so there's a way for you guys to do it manually. And so that is where you can come up here and you'll go to your little hamburger menu and we'll go down here to the employer payroll summary. So I kind of showed the automatic process first, and now I'm kind of think of this as like a manual process. So um, you'll have, let's see here. Doo, 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 doo. So when you come here, it takes you to the employer payroll summary lookup screen. And this is where you can look up the different summary informations. So the way you want to think about it, if you're thinking about it manually or just at all, is that we start with a summary and then a header gets created and then a detail. It kind of just drills down as you go and becomes more you start high level and it just gets more detailed as you go down. So that's kind of how I think of these payroll records. So what we need to do is we need to create a new summary. In order to do that, we can come here and click the new button. And so what that does, as you can see, we're in that gray out. It kind of is grayed out. So we know we're in a new mode. We have this stuff. Nothing can be added here. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to click this save button. Now, I just kind of want to point out we have stuff that'll probably get populated the minute I hit save. So like we don't have an ID set up and so forth. So I'll click the save button. And so when I did that, as I was saying, it assigned an ID to this record. It also created this panel and grid down here for the header that's going to be attached to this summary. And so we have this section and we need to create a new header. Now, because if we notice we have this in review status, and I bet if we go down in the validation information, that's what it's saying. It's saying basically I need to create a header in order to process this payroll summary. So in order to do that, I come up here and I'm going to click this add payroll header. And so when I do that, it populates the add new payroll header pop-up screen. And so when I come here, I need to fill out some information. So I'm going to just do this organization name. I'm going to do the benefit program of teachers. I'm going to do a month date. Now, I know I already submitted it for December, but I'm going to just do it again because that's how I tested it. So I'm going to put a month begin date and a month end date, pay period type, regular. And then once that information is added, I can click this create button. And so when I do that, if you'll notice, it populates a record within this employer payroll header. And so if I want to, and it's in review, so I need to go and look at that header and add more information. So I can click on this, the reporting organization hyperlink. I can also like select it and click the edit selected. Either way, it'll take me to the same screen. So I'll click on the reporting organization hyperlink. And what that does is we're back into that employer payroll header maintenance screen, but now we have a copy forward. So now, but we also have an add payroll detail. So basically what the copy forward feature does is that if you have people that, if you're like every month you have the same people, um, and you don't really need to update anything. It's just going to be like um, Henry and James, so forth, and nothing changes. You can click this copy forward feature. And what that does is it pulls in the previous months and you can use that month and it'll populate that information and pull those same detail records for that for this new payroll month that you're doing. So you don't have to every month go in and add the same detail records over and over again, if that makes sense. So the system is smart enough to just go, hey, we got you. We'll do this for you. And so you'll click the copy forward. And so then it pulled that same um, review record that I had already on file. And of course it's in review, so I have to go and update it. But if you needed to, you can also add the payroll detail. So that would be like you can click the add, and so then that manually, like if you had somebody new that you needed to add, you can add that as well. And so you would enter in their information, the social security, the first name, all this, the license number, and so forth, and then you'd click the save button. So and I didn't have that information prepared to enter for a new one, so I'm not going to do that. But if we want to update this, we'll just use the copy forward. We'll go here just like we did when we were doing it for the file upload. Everything's pretty similar. We'll go in, click the review, drill down, see that we got that discrepancy here. Sure it's, yeah, and yeah, we have an error there. So we'll go and update that error. Let's see. Oh, wait, this was the guy I just did. Sorry. And then I just lost myself. I got lost in there. Hold on. And it might be just because I'm using the same guy. So, oops. Oh, let's say, let's just see. Oh, so this might be because I'm using the same month and the same guy. So when I tested this, I must have had somebody else set up. But basically you would fix this, go past the error. I'm sorry, I can't show you guys again, but it's basically the same thing. So I'm gonna go back to the header and you would get this into the valid status and you would get that same panel where you certify and submit your name and it would do the same thing. So that is how you can create it manually. Is there any questions about that?